Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Beautiful, starting your morning with us on the show, your early morning starters, Rise and Shine, coming to you live from the very beautiful hills of Ibiakoran. My name is Janice Kabum. Good morning and welcome.
Very bright Friday morning to you there. My name is Nigerian, and thanks for joining us, and I do hope you enjoy the show.
Okay, we're going to start this way. So many stories making the rounds this morning, and of course in Nigeria as well. We are starting our story this morning with the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, the APC, in the 2023 elections, talking about Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who had a penthouse of the former president in Abeokuta, Ogun State, at about 1 p.m. And then he was also welcomed with a lot of fanfare and how it went. And then we'll come back right to the conversation.
2003, ask Umarus of blessed memory, still here, right? What are you going to do with the election in Nigeria? The election that brought me as president of this country is flawed, and I will reform it.
Sorry, this way, Boris. Excuse me.
Femi Gbajabiamila there. He was part of those that actually went on that visit. But you know that, of course, it was more like a closed-door meeting. So the details of the meeting has not yet been revealed to the public. But you also saw when somebody was trying to get inside and they said how Nigerians would just turn the whole thing around and say what was not said or said what was not heard, you know. So, yeah. But it's good to see that a lot of consultations have started in earnest, you know, and great to see well that Obasanjo is not also like really partisan into politics anymore, but coming from the background of the PDP and being president 2 times on that particular platform, and then his relevance too cannot be overemphasized since he left, you know, office in 2007 when he contested in 1999 and left in 2007. He's been very, very relevant in the Nigerian politics.
Yes, of course. At this point, in the next couple of weeks, these consultations are going to become more intensified of Nigeria. So, good stuff there. Of course, one way or the other, we are going to hear what the meeting was about, but the fact that it was a closed-door meeting and okay, and of course, we saw that they tried to maintain how, you know, no form of audience was granted whatsoever, and we are still looking to how things are going to progress, and at the end of the day, if anybody language will give up a partisan, because at the end of the day, it's just like at the beginning of all of this general election bid, we saw like literally everyone who wanted to go for the presidency before the primaries at the time, they all went to visit the late Yaradwa's mother. And so one would even be thinking, oh wow, what's her, you know, her strength and her position in the political framework of Nigeria. But so is the case. Everybody will, you know, speak to whichever person they deem as a stakeholder in the sector. But
Yeah,
Great one there.
definitely. Yes, closed door meeting it was, but trust Nigerians, they had to go dig up something in 2015 where Ahmed Bola Tinubu also spoke something against Olusegun Obasanjo, more like Nigeria.
Year 2003, ask Umoru's of blessed memory, Shehu Yadra, what are you going to do with the election in Nigeria? He said, the election that brought me as president of this country. Who conducted that election? Obasanjo is the greatest election rigger in this country. Let him. He's an expired meat. Put him on the shop or dump him in the dustbin. Forget Obasanjo.
Okay, that's it there. Of course, Nigerians never forget. They had to go dig up that particular video.
Just to wonder what the current handshake is about.
Is about, you know, and just to also remind the former president Olusegun Obasanjo that this was actually said. So while you're bromassing, you have to bromass with care, you know, and remember that this was said about you being the greatest rigger, election rigger of all times. And but again, you know, when I think about what Nigerians are trying to do, it's been like 7 years since this comment was made. Okay, so a lot of things have gone under the water, a lot of peace talks, a lot of reconciliations, and then you know that they always say in politics, there's always no foe, there's only one interest. Yes, no permanent enemies. With their enemies and eat just because of their interests. So that's just what is playing out here, you know. So and then some people would also think that maybe you know, the former president Olusegun Obasanjo is well, the truth is, and it still lies, that you know he's very relevant, and he has, when you talk about structure, even though he's not in any political little squabble with the former president Jonathan, he tore his membership card of the PDP, and he vowed that he will never. He has kept to that promise. And I also remember that couple of months ago, some PDP members, led by the national chairman, Iyo Chayu, actually had to go visit him for some reason. And he told them pop and plain, he said, look, I can never come back to PDP anymore. So he's not like a member of any political party, but he's really, forget that it wasn't just like a smooth ride for former President Olusegun Obasanjo ruling Nigeria from 1999 to 2007. It wasn't like a smooth ride. He had done some things that Nigeria thought was actually terrible. I remember the story of Uji in Bayelsa State, where he like wiped, you know, a whole community because he needed to stop some kind of insurgencies that, you know, raised up around those areas at the time. And some people have also said that if he was still president of Nigeria, where we are having all this Boko Haram, you know, insurgency, that he would have stemmed it to a large reason. So let's not take that fact away that, you know, former president Olusegun Obasanjo is still very relevant and has some very strong political structures that, you know, some of these politicians think.
Well, I think for him not being partisan also gives him a leverage, some kind of supervisory role to the democracy of Nigeria. Because if he were to be form of whatever party that he's on, but I think with the freedom of not being held bound to any party, he's free to give his statements and his advices during consultations as an elder statesman. And I think that that's important and fair enough for a man of that caliber. Of course, he is not looking to it's just best, and party or no party, like you said, his relevance is still speaking. And I mean, Olusegun Obasanjo is one person who is bold and audacious with the things he has to say. Yeah. He knows he has the platform to make a strong, you know, followers of, you know, OBJ, as it were, and they will take him seriously. But nonetheless, we'll move to the next story there, where we see that Governor Akeredolu of Ondo State has promised residents of the state a reward package of course, in recent weeks, we've seen how Governor Akeredolu has tried also, just like Governor Bello Matawale, he has tried to be on top of the conversations with regards to how best to curb insecurity in his state. And the Ondo State government promised to reward anyone willing to expose the identity of kidnappers and other criminals in the state as part of its efforts to combat insecurity with 50,000 naira. Of course, this was brought to bear by the Commissioner of Information, Mrs. Bamidele Ademola. The State Executive Council meeting at the Governor's office was where this discussion actually did take place. And Olutejo said the development was meant to further encourage citizens to provide helpful and timely information about criminal activities in any part of the state. When we look at the fact that Nigerians are even becoming more responsible and more responsive with the measure, one more feather added to the cap of, let's say, a strategy that has been brought to bear. We saw about 2 weeks ago where the Chief of Defense now was saying, and one could think that maybe this is just one of the offshoot of some of those strategies. Imagine if a neighbor who is hosting, who knows his neighbor is, knowing fully well, like an added advantage with the way things are in the economy, to know that there is like a prize money on the heads of these people. It also goes a long way. So you're going to even see more young. The Akeredolu-led administration is looking to get the people of the state more proactive in the area of security to rid insecurity in Ondo State.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, like we said yesterday when we were talking about the issue of to curb insecurity in the different states, let's not also forget that the Owo story was something that, hit really hard on the Ondo people, and trying not to see a repeat of such a menace. I think that's why, whatever it is that is causing this insecurity threats in the different states. For Ondo State, 50,000 naira bounty on any kidnapper that is being reported. I think that's another, means of saying that, okay, since we know that the economy is harsh enough, let's try to see how we can use that, avenue to see how people can begin to report cases. Do not forget, security is everybody's business. We'll keep on saying these things. Security is everybody's business. We cannot shy away from the responsibility of seeing something going wrong or fishy and not saying it. Some people just think that is none of my business until it becomes your business. Security is everybody's business. So you might just see a neighbor who is being, acting in some type of way that you don't really understand. There are neighbors that, this another thing that I see happen a lot in this part of the country, not just this part of the country though, but it's more like your business is your business. It's none of my business. I don't pry into your privacy and all of that. But you know that in such situations, sometimes people just stay. They don't even know what their neighbor is doing. They don't know where their neighbor works. They don't know. They just see the person wake up in the morning. Sometimes you sit at home and you only go out at night. You're not even questioning what exactly your neighbor is doing. Or just like you mentioned, the fact that, houses these days, landlords are harboring criminals. And at the end of the day, when those criminals are nabbed, of course the landlords have to be nabbed as well. But have the landlords gone beyond just asking for monies, for rents? Because it's more like, oh, I just need your house for a rent, and then you give out the house. You're just after giving out your houses on rent and collecting money. You're not even concerned about who exactly you're housing, what exactly the person is doing. Because if anything goes wrong, there's just know how that you also will not go down for it as somebody that is inhabiting those kinds of people. So I think that what Ondo State Governor is doing, or government, is quite commendable, but how far can they take this? It's another thing, question that we need to ask. How far can they take this? And then when you look at, some people will say that, most governments, most states have deficient states, so where are they going to be getting the monies, to pay people 50,000 naira each? But anyways, they have said, again, looking at this report, they have said that it's not just about mentioning somebody or pointing hands that this is, that person, before you begin to receive whatever it is that the government has promised. But it's good. It's good to see that government, at different levels now. And when you see that other states will begin to do this and not just necessarily begin to wait on the federal government to do everything, but because truth of the matter is
There.
are there, okay? Because when you say that insecurity is bedeviling northern Nigeria, the first question a lot of people would even ask is, what are the governors in those states doing? Why do they even collect security votes in the first place? In terms of security, then the first person that has to be questioned or has to answer to it is the governors. What are they doing? But it's good to see that right now nobody is actually waiting again, or some people are into their state and seeing how they can make these things happen for them. But another thing is, how tenable can these things go? Just like the case of Zamfara State, where Bello Metawali is saying that, look, shoot aside anybody that is found riding motorcycles in this particular areas, or what else did he say that people should do now? You know, but how attainable are those things? We need to see results. Let people begin to think of more result-oriented processes or approaches that they can use to curb the insecurity. And then I just pray that one day all the efforts that is being put, you know, by different states now will just yield some kind of results.
I know that, you know, something you said in passing, the fact that sometimes some landlords actually harbor people, and sometimes even looks like they're closing their eyes to what their you know, tenants are doing. But I know that I think in the last 2 weeks, a directive has been released that landlords need to, you know, ask, you know, certain kinds of questions, in-depth questions, to realize, you know, to know who their, you know, incoming tenants are. What do you do? I think I saw something about even having like account statements like up backwards of like 2 years.
But the point is, do landlords need to wait for government to be releasing reports for them to know that they need to ask questions?
But I'm very sure that these things are done in environments where the owners of the house did not, you know, let it out to young men, because of course they were not sure. So it's mostly females or married people and all of those kinds of things. So it's just that at this point, some of those conversations are, you know, coming up, you know, some more because of the spate of insecurity that we are having. But it's good to see that we are having some forward thoughts as to how to ameliorate insecurity. But like you said, for us to begin to see the results, responses, oh, we've had this happened, and this is, as a result of this is what we got. I think that will help us to a very, very far, a large extent, on some of these ideas and implement it in their own states. Then it will help, because you cannot just, like you said, the federal government is not everywhere. That's why we have different tiers of government, to be able to do different things at different times. So if we see you move and expose some things that also exposes the negligence of the federal government, then maybe they will be more willing to, you know, address these issues. And I know that yesterday you were talking about the fact that some governors had come together to bring up about 30 plus ideologies as to how to handle some, you know, insecurity issues in Nigeria. But of course, we see that some of those things were not very relevant, you know, facing the times that we live in. It doesn't sound like things that a group of think tankers would, you know, suggest to move the economy and other things forward in our nation. But of course, we hope to find ourselves in a really better place as a nation.
Yeah, but I just wanted to pick on something that you said. You know, when you talked about the fact that state governors should begin to, you know, be proactive. I think it goes beyond even state governors. What are local government chairmen doing? What are the councillors in the rural areas? Because these are some of the places that these people dwell. So what are the councillors doing?
Hiding out in communities,
of course,
hinterlands.
Yes, hinterlands. They don't even stay in more like highbrow areas. You won't see them there. Okay? So there's councillors in a particular ward in a village, but they stay in town. So they hardly even know the people in their different wards. So let the security checks begin from even our rural areas. And that's why we've always...
needs of their community.
Of their communities. And those, if you go to the rural areas, one person will know almost the whole people in the village.
Exactly.
So once you see a stranger element coming, you know definitely that this is new. This person coming from, what does this person do? So let us take it back even to the rural areas. Let us take it back to the councillors. Let them start being proactive. Let us take it to the local government chairman that won't even stay in their local government but stay in town.
At the end of the day, you put their hand where they can and make sure that we all work collectively to give ourselves the kind of nation that we want to have at the end of the day. Because if there is no peace, you can't go to bed and lie down at the end of the day. It's actually affecting everybody. It's affecting the quantity that they need to farm. It's affecting the man in the east. It's affecting the man in the south and the west. So we cannot actually say these things are not our business. The sooner everybody puts hands on deck, I think it will be the better for us. As
50,000 naira each for every cultism report you make, and then they prosecute and take to the later, you get your 50,000 naira. And for kidnappers as well, that's some kind of business, oriented thinking that the government has done there. So most people would just sit down and begin to look out and be more vigilant and know how many of these people they can nab and send to the government for prosecution.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's the much we can take on this particular conversation. We'll be joining Mary Joseph on the News Brief desk. And of course, when that is over, we'll definitely come back for the remaining parts of Rise and Shine. Do stay with us.
Bless you all, and I am particularly very pleased to be able to once again address those of you that have been with us from inception, as well as those of you who are new to the Planet Radio and Spectrum Television platforms. As an ardent listener and follower of the TAP Media Group, I am certain you have observed the frequent interruptions in our transmission and sometimes non-operation for some time now. This is as a result of the devastating damage caused by a massive thunder strike on our installations in the Spectrum TV, Planet Radio stations, and on our power generating plants. This happened a few months after the completion of the periodic reinforcement of our earthing system. We want to very sincerely and unreservedly tender our apologies for all the inconveniences and the quality infotainment you've missed due to the unfortunate lightning incident. The wise man said, "It is not how many times you fall, but how courageous and determined you are to get up, dust yourself and move on, that matters." So we have left no stone unturned in our effort to return to full capacity transmission. The challenges we have faced in the past few weeks afforded us the time to reflect on the goodwill shown to us by our listeners, viewers, clients, and partners. So I convey here Media Group to our esteemed listeners and viewers for your unwavering support, loyalty, and sustained patronage. You all are truly the reason for our existence. Our years of operating in a sector such as ours that is constantly and rapidly evolving is an achievement that we are particularly proud of. We are honored to be here, and even more so to have done it on the back of our consistent, strong values of discipline and high quality service, all the while raising our profile and prominence in the industry. Esteemed listeners and viewers, recall that Planet Radio came of establishing the first privately owned and indigenous radio stations was a burden shared by many, but actualized first by TAF and Associate. In the same vein, and as part of our continued effort to get into closer contact with the people through our wider coverage of radio and programming, I announce to you the introduction and commencement of an entirely indigenous language radio station into the TAP Media Group brands, effective Monday, August 1st, 2022. For us at TAP Media Group, the emergence of Tangsio 102.7 FM, as the station is so called, education and entertainment needs of the mass of our indigenous populace that hitherto have not been catered for with our English language broadcast on Planet Radio. Our objective is to build a profitable, sustainable, and contributing company for the enlightenment and development of our people. And we know that in order to achieve this, the happiness and satisfaction of our teeming listeners and viewers is the priority. Tangsio 102.7 FM will be broadcast exclusively continue to uphold the best standards of professionalism in the conduct of our business, even as we will continue to push for more innovative ways of serving the people better. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to members of the board and the entire staff of TAF Media Group who have been doing their very best in their respective positions, especially to the engineering staff who are devoting their effort to ensuring smooth operations in spite of the challenging times. This for me is profound and indispensable for this new leap. Above all, I gratefully acknowledge the support and sustained patronage of the government of Akwa Ibom states, clients and partners, and once again, the goodwill of our listeners and viewers. We hope and believe that Tangsio 102.7 will be of immense benefit to our people as it will help expand the space for social political engagement, entertainment, and the advancement of our dear state group. Sincerely appreciate the good people of Ibiakuran for their unceasing support in ensuring that our assets are secured. May the Almighty God continue to bless.
102.7 FM. Ekene Dang.
A knowledge of global businesses, economic activities, a new wave of the stock market, forex market, from the dot-com era to the oil booms, the fundamental news drives the market. This is Business 360, taking you to the business around the globe. Join us from 11th.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria police force.
I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally...
With some of the killings he did?
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew?
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases.
I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every Friday.
Joseph. We begin with President Muhammadu Buhari as he has visited Borno State as part of federal government's efforts on impended return of internally displaced person in the northeast. In a related development, President Buhari has issued fresh orders to the military to take the fight against disaster management and social development and its agencies to come up with specific programs to address the urgent threats being posed in the northeast region. In the last 18 months, Chairman of the agency, Brigadier General Buba Mawa, who was speaking during a Drug Awareness Conference 2022 in Abuja, said the arrests were an indication he has agreed to the parameters of a potential mission of Internal Atomic Energy Agency to the Zaporizhia nuclear plant after repeatedly shielding of the complex raised fears of a nuclear catastrophe. According to a news conference, he in Cleveland, following a trilateral meeting, nuclear watchdog, among other bodies, could guarantee nuclear safety. And finally, in sports, Nigerians on the 2023 team have been drawn to play in the second round of the draw for the 2023 Under-23 AFCON took place at the headquarters of the Confederation of African Football in Cairo, capital of Egypt. We'll have details of these stories and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine, where we have Uyai and Janice on standby. Have a wonderful morning.
Voting for Spectrum TV to recover 40 lives in Plateau County.
a knowledge of global businesses, economic activities, a new wave of the stock market, forex market, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs creates new dynamics towards emerging market millionaires and billionaires. From the dot-com era to the oil booms, the fundamental news drives the market. The weekdays, exclusive on Spectrum Television. Business 360, your prism to world businesses.
Power with the president as stipulated.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria.
It's so good to have you join us back here again after we are as well back here in the studios for Rise and Shine. We've been talking on a lot of areas of conversations. The fact that the President Olusegun Obasanjo in his penthouse in Abeokuta, and details of that conversation, of course, closed-door meeting has not yet been disclosed to. The government of Ondo State is actually giving out 50,000 naira each to any person that reports crime thoughts. Maybe we should just, you know, of course we've rounded up on that, saying that security is ability.
Yeah, when we cross from that point, I think security and governance come hand in hand.
Of course they do.
And then we see that Femi actually did see him dance to the very corrosive Kiss Daniel, tallies with the way he ended. Sharing his lovely dance steps with us. Of course, I think engineering. Yeah, getting our PVCs and voting, in the coming elections. But then let's just take the video and then. It's actually a clear-cut case of Nigerians. We all need to booga.
Yes.
We all need to rise
while
to the
you're
occasion.
Bulgarian, I think the message is clear.
Yes.
Operation Get Your Privacies. And you know that Nigerians will always tell you that one thing that you see a whole Speaker of the National House of Representatives, jumping on the Buga song to show his Buga steps. But that is him there, showing us that he can actually Buga as well.
That he's in touch with what is happening. With
the realities and with trends, Yeah. But the message is clear, get your privacy. That is what he is actually telling his country. See in the video that people, were showing their privacies. And don't also forget that I think by next month, we'll begin to see very vigorous, campaigning taking place across the country. So it's Operation Show Your PVC. Are you even ready? We know how much sermons we've been preaching from different angles about getting PVCs. And if you check well in that video, you even see that somebody that is physically challenged, or how do you call it now, the vulnerable people, are given a fair share when it comes to casting their ballots. We saw that happen a lot in Osun State, where they had their gubernatorial, the 2023 elections.
When we're even still looking at the issue of PVCs and INEC, we know that we had about 9 million people who registered online when they brought out online. So the problem is that, and just about 7 million or thereabouts have been able to go to physical centers to actually register these date closure has come on them. The conversations have been going on, but so far we haven't heard INEC give a word as to whether they're going to, open up registration centers, yes, for them, for just those people. I think that's another thing we can do. You know, you'd have them maybe come with their printouts or links to their online registration, so that we know that we are even taking care of the backlog of people who took the initiative that done. So in the spirit of what what Femi Gbajabiamila is saying, we do hope that INEC, you know, considers that and does it as soon as possible. Because if they don't do it, it looks more like disenfranchising them, because they had actually taken the initiative to do it. So it's better they just go ahead and help everybody to register.
Okay, so it's World Humanitarian that go out there to make sure that they provide humanitarian services to people in disaster-prone areas and internally displaced people as well. Of course, I know that the president of the to commemorate people, you know, that have actually lost their lives through disaster, and also those that are involved in making sure that, you know, they have humanitarian services. And I don't think that these humanitarian services should even be limited to people or to give back to society. It should be more like everybody's business. You can find somebody that is less privileged in your area and you just lend a hand. Let's just show humanity. Of course, that's why we are humans as well.
Yeah, of course, we see that this year's theme is actually it takes a village. So it goes beyond what just one person, a whole village, to, you know, give us the kind of humanitarian stability that we need as societies, as nations, and it's drawing our attention and our focus back to the humanity of our existence, because at some point it just feels like we are going, and then with crises and wars and disparities, we seem to be losing out on our humanity. We are no longer as much in touch with these things that actually make us human beings. So I think days like this give us the opportunity to drive these kinds of conversations and remind us that in spite of our differences, we are actually human beings, and we do actually have common things that tie us as a people. So it actually does take a village. Of course, the United Nations General Assembly marks the event with a new theme, humanitarian system, to advocate for the survival, well-being and dignity of people affected by crises, and for the safety and security of aid workers. So I mean, this is a very important conversation. It's good to know that when a community member in a village sees a humanitarian worker, you should be able to give them the kind of help support and the aid that is needed. It takes us back to Governor Akeredolu's statement. When you see a humanitarian worker in your environment, even giving the necessary information to them is helping them also to achieve the goals for coming into these hinterlands.
And then let's not also forget that, you know, most of these humanitarian agencies do not like men, so we need to also give them that particular helping hand that they need to continue to do their humanitarian businesses.
And they do some of the most.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Look at the Red Cross.
Yeah, the Red
For
Cross.
instance, in the Ukraine crisis now,
Even in war-torn areas, they're always there making sure that, you know, they give Red Cross a first aid treatments to people and all of that. Look at even Boys Brigade, look at Boy Scouts, you know, Row 3, we have Lions Club, we have a whole lot of them, you know, helping hands and putting things together to make sure that those that are internally displaced because of different crises, let's not forget that some crises can be man-made, some crises can be natural disasters like flood, hurricane, and then hurricane, they give very beautiful names, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane, with that human touch, okay?
And it's a good day to extend your hand and do something human for another person.
I'm going to do something human today for somebody.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
blessed be who is getting this
humanitarian service.
So at this point, we have we're going to be moving up to our very next conversation, and we have our guest on standby. And this morning we'll be looking at the Nigerian economy, the challenges, and the way forward.
Yeah, very necessary. Yeah, very necessary. And joining us on this particular conversation, we have Bashiru Shegu Sani, who is the chief economist at Feni Ferry. Thank you very much for joining us, sir, and good morning. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning, sir. Oh, thank you so much for being a part of the show this morning. My name is Jan. I also have another presenter here, Uyai.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Great to have you.
Thank you very much. I mean, and it's nice to be here with you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I know we were supposed to have this conversation yesterday, but it didn't happen. But thank you so much for availing yourself for us today.
No, thank you very much.
Okay, so let's start very quickly. We're looking at the Nigerian economy, and I know that for 2020, with the advent of COVID-19, it's told a lot of economy. But when Nigerians passed on to 2022, there was this kind of hope, that the economy will actually rebound back, to what it usually was. But we discovered that it wasn't anything different. Rather, it became worse. So from your own perspective now, I would just like you to tell us exactly what you think, or how you think we have fared so far when we talk about the Nigerian economy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Janice. The problem with the Nigerian economy, the economy has been having little hiccups since the time of Jonathan, but I think everything got really, really worse, much worse in the last 7 years. So if you look at the Nigerian economy, it has grown very, very sluggishly in the last, by far the most amount of fiscal resources, fiscal spending in terms of budget sizes than any government. If you look at the average economic growth that we have recorded in the past 7 years, that is, take the economic growth of each year, add them together, divide by 7, which is a very simple way to look at it. We've only recorded 0.9% economic growth in the last 7 years. 0.9%. When the economy, when the population of Nigerians is growing by 3.5% per annum. So if the economy is growing, the population is growing at 3.5 annually in the last 7 years, and the economy has only grown on the average 0.9, you can see the huge gap. So the problem, in terms of the sluggish economic growth, did not actually start in 2020. It started way before that. Remember, in 2016, we went into has been, I think, in 2021 when we recorded 3.3% economic growth. Other than that, in the other years, it's either been negative or very, very low figures. So at the end of the day, if you look at it together, we didn't start having problems in 2020. We started having problems way before 2020.
Okay, so the Nigerian national 4%, which is a total of 20% increase, the highest since September of 2005. Now, if you were going to break this down for a layman on the street to understand what it means for inflation to hit an economy, what would you say is currently happening to Nigeria, and what is the fate of the common man? Because at the end of the day, it seems to be like we might have money circulating in some spheres of government, and some people are faring okay in spite of the fact that prices of things are skyrocketing. But
okay, in order to put it in proper context, let's look at the background. The Nigerian government, when you look at it all together, we've been seeing an uptick in the level of recurrent expenditure over the years. But actually it took pace, really rapid pace in this administration. And we were spending more of the revenues that Nigeria has been earning on recurrent expenditure. And when you say recurrent, just more or less cost of running the administration. So if you make all the money in the world and then you spend everything on running the administration, and we saw that at the beginning of this government, they began to borrow if you want to do any road or any bridge. So we've been running what we call a deficit budget in the past 7 years, huge deficits. And if I would explain it in a layman's way, look at it, if you are a man and you lose your job, one of the very first things you would need to think about is how to cut your costs, how to cut your coat according to your cloth. But so Nigeria will say, our officials of government will say, our revenues are challenged. But if our revenues are challenged, what should we do? What should we think of doing? We should think of cutting down costs. Of course, if you want to cut costs, you need to do so in ways that will not affect the economy negatively. And what we need to do, therefore, is to look for areas of waste. And there are many huge areas of waste in our administration that we need to get rid of livelihood. But what you now resort to doing is not to cut your cost, but to be borrowing money and borrowing more and borrowing more to finance, a profligate lifestyle. What will happen is that you will go bankrupt. And that is what has happened.
Okay, so what you're saying in essence is that the federal government is being wasteful.
Yes, the government has been wasteful across all the tiers of government, and we can describe it. I mean, we talk about revenues being challenged, but we spend our money on Nigeria Republic. And we say Nigeria Republic, even Chad is a part of Nigeria. We spend our money there. We spend money that we cannot see the outcome. We are spending money that is not resulting in economic growth. That is waste. So the government is spending, and it is not reflecting on the people. It is not reflecting on the economy. It is not reflecting in terms of economic growth or in terms of better economic indices. Then what is the money going for? It's being wasted.
Okay, let me bring you back. Let me bring you back a little bit. Let me bring you back a little bit now. Okay. Away from just saying that the federal government is wasteful, which I think is more like one of the reasons, why we're experiencing what we're experiencing in the country today, as in terms of the economy. I think are the other reasons why we are sliding down and having a fall when it comes to the economy of the country.
So, coming back to the same point, we say government is broke. Why is the government broke? Our revenues are challenged. For instance, first and foremost, we have an existential problem on our hands, whereby we're supposed to be selling 1.8 million barrels of crude oil daily, but only about 1 million barrels per day in terms of proceeds. It's coming to Nigeria. Where is the remaining 0.8? So that's 800,000 barrels per day. Where is it? We hear it is being stolen. We don't know who is doing the stealing.
But the argument from the federal government is that there's some kind of vandalization and theft going on, I think, in the Niger Delta. That's their argument.
That is not true. I mean, if you look at history, each time there is militancy in the Niger Delta, it is never done quietly. It is not because the guys who are doing the militancy, they are doing it for a reason. They have certain complaints, and sometimes they even issue notices. And when they are doing it, they actually come out and say, we are doing this. But we are not aware of any act of militancy going on in the Niger Delta. There is no declaration of war on the oil pipelines by Niger Delta militants. We are not aware of that. What we're hearing is that oil is being stolen here and there. But who are those behind those oil tankers? Who are those behind the stealing of the oil? It's not about vandalization. It is about stealing. That's on the revenue side. On the expenditure side, if your revenues are challenged, what you need to do as a prudent man is to look at areas where you can cut or read of any organized thinking or initiative in government about let's cut costs.
Okay, so when we talk about...
Instead, what you hear about is borrowing more and more.
Yeah.
And when we borrow more and more, we're not seeing the commensurate spending of that borrowing on the system.
Yes. Okay, so when we are talking about putting up ways to curb these experiences, we know that between January and July, we saw the Central Bank of Nigeria tighten monetary policy by increasing the interest rate from 11% to about 14%. And I know you're talking about how we can attempt to mop up money from the, the economy and curb wastefulness. Do you think, because you just made mention of the fact that we might not have seen any coherent strategies by the government to handle these issues? So let's talk a little bit about tightening monetary.
Action of the central bank is what I would call an own goal, an unforced error. And why it is so is this. Government is broke. Government is wasteful. National Assembly members are the highest paid in the world. We don't even need the two houses of National Assembly in the real sense of it. If we can actually have some example. And there are so many examples of waste here and there. Now, government is not containing cost. Government is borrowing and borrowing and borrowing to the point that it can incurred in the last 7 years. Now, what is government doing? Instead of, again, seeing the need to cut costs, what the government is trying to do is print more money. Government is borrowing money from the central bank and printing money to the extent that, as at the last count, 19 trillion naira illegal borrowing from the central bank has taken place under this administration. 19 trillion, apart from all the loans that have been racked up. If you look at it in terms of loans or national debt, our national debt moved from about 12 trillion naira in 40 billion dollars. Apart from all that, government has now printed 19 trillion. Consider it, a trillion is about $2 billion. That is the money that is actually fueling inflation in Nigeria. That borrowing from the central bank, 19 trillion, illegal lending by the central bank to the federal government. It is illegal in the sense that it is against the dictates of the law.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask. Is there no system that makes the CBN to advise the federal government right with regards to these kinds of borrowing and releasing this money back into our economy, as it were?
Exactly. Not only is the CBN supposed to advise the government right, the CBN is actually even complicit in lending government so much money that it is not empowered to do so. Inflation. Now you take an economic measure, you want to increase interest rate for the private sector. What that means is that when we raise interest rate, yes, what we are saying in essence is that the inflation is a monetary phenomenon. So there's so much money in the system. Yes. But what it is presupposing is that, yes, there's so much money in the private sector. Therefore, we raise interest rates to make borrowing by the private sector more expensive. And when it is more expensive, so instead of now advising government, this is where we need to address inflation. You are not doing so. You are actually going to in my own candid opinion, that measure is being put in the wrong place. Increasing the debt, increasing the burden for the private sector by raising the interest rate is a wrong measure. What we should be doing to contain the inflation wastefully and actually printing money to finance.
Okay, so still talking about the Naira now. At one point, the federal government and the central bank thought that the e-Naira could come in and help to strengthen the Naira. But I don't know, let's find out, let's get your thought on this. Has there been any form of strengthening? Has the e-Naira had some kind of strength in terms of strengthening the economy now?
E-Naira cannot strengthen. The inflationary trend that is going on. See, let's look at when the government implements economic policies, there are 6 main objectives of implementing economic policies. 1, to achieve full equilibrium in the market, macro market equilibrium, stability, GDP growth, equilibrium in the balance of payment of the country, achieving economic. We say we want to contain inflation, and then want to extend the value of the Naira. But the point here is that our foreign reserves are going down. Our foreign reserves are going down. It's in your have gone down from $29 billion that this government inherited in 2015. We hear it's now $15 billion, even though the CBN was reporting $36 billion. Now, those are two main factors why the Naira will continue to be beaten, why the Naira will continue to suffer heavy beating in the marketplace, whether in the local market or internationally.
As highest inflation rate of 19.64%. Let's talk about this before we even begin to see how we can begin to find solutions to the actual problem we are having in our economy today. Now, 19.64% increase, and this is the high in different African countries because of things like this, where they say that high cost of living is what is disturbing them. We saw it happen in Sri Lanka, we saw it happen in Ghana, and just the other day we saw it happen in Sierra Leone. Now, for us as Nigerians, I know that some people think that we level of inflation in the country.
Yes, so we highlighted one major factor behind the inflationary trend, which is government of fiscal irresponsibility on the part of government. We need to death new tax on telephone usage and all that, and then VAT increases and all that here and there, more or less to raise more money. But when they raise that money, say part of it is imported, in the sense that yes, we are an importing economy. We bring in from the disruptions and all that, and because of the war in Ukraine, oil prices are going up and all that. But oil prices are going up. Other oil-producing nations are smiling to the bank. Refine them into finished petrol, kerosene, diesel, and the rest of it. And we are forced to bring those in from outside, to the point that 25% of all the total imports of final petroleum. Then we can, with the issue around inflation being imported from the oil market, from kerosene, diesel, and the rest of it, can actually be contained. But we're not doing so. So we are exposed to those factors that say, we want to refine our petroleum. And government has borrowed money, $1.5 billion to fix. It cannot work for many reasons. One is that there's a history behind it. Nigeria is simply not ready to refine its own petroleum, at least not on the government side. Nigerian government has shown it very clearly in Nigeria. Government enterprises do not succeed in Nigeria. Therefore, there's not a single exemption. Government enterprises do not succeed. Therefore, that was that refinery that Obasanjo had tried to revive, and in frustration, Obasanjo sold that refinery to Dangote before paying for the full complement of staff and all that. And yet, we are spending borrowed money, $1.5 billion, that could have been otherwise spent more productively.
Of things come out in the media, from termites eating up documents that should help us account for monies that we release to MDAs and parastatals to take care of things and explain themselves that, oh, it wasn't to the tune of that million, but that allegation has already been made. Our infrastructures are actually built on borrowed money. Of course, this instability from the people that we elected into governance, because I think one of the things that is really eating at our track, whether these things are done, in the time frame and with the money that's supposed to be done.
Yeah, instead of actually looking at our finances, we are human beings. We run homes. You are running a home. I run it for a moment and say, let us look at what we're spending on. And if there are areas of waste, you cut the waste. But we're not doing that in Nigeria now. When we're now hearing about containing costs, what we're hearing is that civil servants above the age of 50 should be sacked, should be told to go home. The people who are saying this, the president of Nigeria is 80. We now want to render people unemployed in order to be able to save money. That is not how to save money. We need to look at the areas of waste, and there are gargantuan areas of waste that we are seeing obscene stagnant. So at the end of the day, those are the areas we need to look at. We should stop spending our money on Nigeria Republic. We should stop spending 37 billion naira to renovate the National Assembly.
But how can Nigerians actually hold, accountability? And sometimes, to be very honest, when we have conversations like this, we find out that we have highly cerebral people who have solutions that can actually move Nigeria forward. But are we not having these conversations in the right quarters that could even...
To the point that, so when you are impoverished, I mean, you get to a point where you cannot even, you don't even know what is your problem. You don't even understand the nature of the problem, because poverty, and you know how it is actually happening. And of course, Nigerians we're docile, to speak up. About some of these things. People will say, why you up? And it's only recently that we heard, for instance, when you look at the oil stealing, people that ordinarily would not speak up are now beginning to speak up, to say, things are happening. Where is our oil money and all that? The problem is, I'm not a politician in that sense of the word. I'm a politician in the sense that, I'm interested in how my parties that are impoverishing our people running for election and all that. I don't know. It's in the hands of people, too. But we have our ballot PVC or whatever we call it. So let's use our ballots wisely, the election, and look for people that can.
Okay, let me bring you back, to try to revamp the NNPC in Port Harcourt, the refinery in Port Harcourt now. And then my question is, will you still say that Nigeria is still a mono economy, especially with the fact that we've seen the federal government say that they've been sinking so much money into the agricultural sector, and there's this mantra of diversification.
We earn most of our revenues, most of our FX from oil and oil taxes. And when the oil market, sneezes, Nigeria catches. To generate taxes from the same economy is impeded. That is one. And of course, we have other resources. So we should ask ourselves, about a couple of years back, about 2-3 years ago, we were told, as reported. So when Nigeria is now challenged revenue-wise, the question should be asked, where is the Zamfara gold? Why can't we tap that gold now and bring it into, look at that, to bring in more revenues, and see whether we can save ourselves. But for now, Nigeria is a mono economy. When we need to actually progress from that economy that relies essentially on the gift of nature to an economy that produces large population of youths. The Nigerian average age of Nigerians is 19 years. And we have these vibrant youths. If only we could train them in the tech area. India, for instance, even in the best of times. So, and Nigeria can do it. We have guys who are very smart. All we just need to do to have is Nigeria can actually, soar to the sky.
This now as a way of trying to find solutions to the problem that the government of the day can actually help to strengthen our economy again. Now, what would you say is wrong with those recommendations, and how viable are these recommendations?
That people, civil servants of 50 and above, should be asked to go home. They're not asking themselves to go home. So maybe we should have one of those recommendations from them to say governors and presidents and legislators 50 and above should also go home. And, obscene emolument of government officials, National Assembly members, executives, and all that should be pruned down. Areas of waste should actually be looked into. We should stop. We need to look at, there are so many areas of waste, such that if we are serious about it, if we are serious about accountability, you can imagine a member of the executive, the Accountant General of the Federation, was accused lately. One single individual was accused of stealing 109 billion. 109 billion by one individual. So look at that in various TV cameras and all that. Where is that investigation? Where is the EFCC investigation? And all of that. So there are many areas where we can actually save a lot of money if we want to look into all that. Movements of public officials should be looked into. Okay. And all the appurtenances of office all those specs of office, long convoys, cars, from the pain we're going through.
Okay, so let's look at something very closely, something that this administration has lauded itself for since its inception in 2015. The Buhari-led administration has talked about recovering stolen loot. A lot of money has been brought back to the country. But we haven't heard of any direct investments that have been done. We can't draw a line to any particular investment that has been done with these looted monies. Because if we say we are becoming bankrupt as a nation.
Well, the key problem, the key issue there, if at all any money has been recovered, how much has been recovered, let us know. Because sometimes it's one thing to hear announcements, it's another thing for the water will keep on leaking. So if we continue to spend the way we spend, no matter how much you get anywhere, whether from borrowing or from recovered, we're going to tax you even more. They taxed recently, and we hear that they want to tax more. VAT is increasing, and they said they want to increase more. Until and unless government looks at the way it spends a very poor country. Nigeria is a poor country parading itself in ways and manners, that will make even the wealthiest of nations, grin with envy. The way we spend. Nigeria is a poor country, but our government of the waste. We need to do that. And the way we spend the money does not justify, what we have, our revenue base, the state of the economy does not justify the way we continue to spend. And we need to have a coherent policy and well-measured, well-monitored policy around cutting costs.
Okay, sir. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Basharu Shegusani, who is Chief Economist of Feniferi. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a real is wasteful. And if we can quote our quotes according to our cloth, it will do us a whole lot good. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, quite interesting conversation there, and there was a point that he said. Okay, yes, I remember now that we are a poor country, but we do not even live as though we are a poor nation. Of course, when you look at convoys of governors, in the country going around with brings me to the fact that Nigerian generally. We are just used to that packaging thing. We package ourselves. Everybody's packaging. So even the federal government right now is packaging, But of course, they've come out to tell us that they are broke. Maybe last, the packaging is no more working
Yeah,
for
that
them.
point actually did hit a nerve. And if we had time, I would have, really liked for him to, put a little more light on it. Because I was like, okay, I was taken aback a little for a bit.
A lot of people say that we have the funds, but it's just that corruption is not allowing things to go the way
a lot
they're
of wastefulness, like you said.
Yeah, it's a lot of wastefulness. But I just hope that we have an economy that rebounds back and, we don't. Anyways, we'll just take a breather, and when we come back, of course, we'll bring you the concluding part of Rise and Shine, and we'll wrap things up on this end and say bye-bye.
And I am particularly very pleased to be able to have Media Group, who have been doing their very best, ensuring smooth operations in spite of the challenging times. Support and sustained patronage of the government of Akwa Ibom State. That Tangsio 102.7 will be of immense benefit and the advancement of our dear state. Definitely, Tangsio will be a greater envy of our competition, unceasing support in ensuring that our assets are secured. May the Almighty God continue.
7FM, Ekene Dang.
Tangsio 102.7 FM, then you're on a long thing. Just go there and get it. So
that's more like on all our frequencies, including Spectrum Television.
Of course, including the segments where we start with Did You Know segment. Let's get to find out what we didn't know. But for now. My people would always say that hungry will only make your head go sleep. Oh wow! So if you don't sleep or that long, they sleep like 4 hours, you know, but at night. And then I've had some friend that said that, look, one
Only that you sleep in the hereafter.
Let your potentials die with you because, yes, sleep is for lazy people.
You better be alive to do. And sometimes when you even hear people say, oh, I don't sleep at night, please be aware that they sleep in other hours of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Insomnia is
Yeah,
caused by
it
lack
might
of
have been
sleep.
caused by that. When you starve yourself to a point where your body just believes, okay, we don't need needs. Your body says sleep. That's how you were organized to. Whether you want to do it for 2 hours or just do it at the end.
And then when you sleep too much, what happens?
Like, I don't know the word to use and tell me, but you will not feel good.
Yeah, definitely. You feel like you're very tired.
Yeah.
Okay, we take our health tips.
Sleeping before bed will always help you fall asleep.
Sleeping before bed, you said?
No, sorry, reading.
That you say, let me read something very important. The next thing, sleep comes knocking. But again, reading just has a way of...
Recent personally is trying to diversify and going back to reading hard copy books.
Yeah.
Because we already work on systems and screens the whole day. Sometimes you try to create a reading routine for yourself. But since I've already been on the screen for way too long my whole day, attempting to keep up to that is becoming a problem. So if we, I think, you know, this part, there's just that sedation that it brings, unlike when you are trying to read the rays from your screen and everything.
It's causing you teary eyes.
Yeah, so I think we should even do more of hard copy books. So we encourage people to continue to build libraries.
Yeah.
These are things we used to hear. So just have, you know, a library of your favorite books. And
you know, you just get very disconnected from hard copy books when it has to do with maybe you reading for some, not learn new words. That's for me, reading books. Yes, learning new words and building your vocabulary. Let's find out what we have as a recipe this morning.
cupcakes, chocolate cupcakes, yummy, especially when it's made to be very
You can use that, you know, as desserts, you know, after your main meal. You just, you know, it opens up the intestine for the main course meal.
That's right.
And then cakes and
if you have a sweet tooth, of which you should check.
Like me, I own it with my full chest right now.
We don't get unhealthy. Yeah. So let's take our quote of the day, and that's how we'll be wrapping things up this morning. Thoughts leave, they travel far. Swami Vivekananda. Do leave and they travel very far.
Yeah. I think I take the last part, towards leave.
Of
course, yes. So let's purge that negative thoughts that we sometimes have and try to always have positive thoughts about thoughts. That's something that positive thinking does to you. It just re-energizes you. Yeah.
It pumps the
resilient spirit.
Come on now.
Okay, that's how we can look inward and see how we can actually salvage. As I finally say, happy World Humanitarian Day to every one of us. Of course, we just have that one humanitarian service. Lovely weekend. My name is Janice Kabum. See you next week.
Of course, as a private individual, start from your end to curb wastefulness so that you can transfer cloth, your cloth, right? Your coat according to your cloth, of course. cause. And yes, Janice had promised to, extend the humanitarian service to someone today. I hope we bring that that testimony. But it's been a really joyful ride.